What does a top designer really look for when choosing builders to work with?
Words or mannerisms, body language that gives me confidence they're willing to collaborate. So they're happy to work together.
From losing everything in the GFC to discovering the secret of successful builder-designer partnerships.
Align yourself with people who have similar values, a similar approach to the client, and a similar approach to the built outcome. Is your designer helping you run your business, and are you helping the designer run their business?
Today we reveal what separates builders who get chosen from those who get overlooked, the collaboration method that eliminates project failures, and why builders who master this approach never struggle to find quality projects again. This is about transformation from competition to true collaboration.
Aaron, massive thank you for coming down. Met you at the Level Up experience. I think Rick Rushton pointed you out in the crowd. And
That's right, yes.
You mentioned a few things, and I thought I'll say hi to him on the way out to lunch, and then we had a chat, and you were nice enough to share a few words on camera. And then I did a little bit of digging. I was like, oh, wow, I didn't know. And then a lot has happened since then, and you agreed to come on here and share a bit about your story, but also share what I'm keen to dive into, which we'll leave towards the back half of this talk. It's just your approach to things, which I think is quite different, and I think it'd be really good to get that message out there to others. But if you've listened to any bits and pieces on our podcast, we're big believers in everyone has a unique story.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know for certain you when you shared a bit of it off camera that you understand and appreciate that when it comes to, every family has a story, or there are stories within a family, and those stories often come from within a building, within a space, within a home. Can you paint the picture of, the camera won't see this, but, those shoes look beautiful, well worn, they've seen hard work, RMs, and, what I think, a perfectly, simply done 200 series. And I thought, this guy is down to earth. This guy I can connect with. Talk me through where the roots of that come from. Where does your story begin?
Story begins, grew up here, obviously, in Queensland, Brisbane. Spent a little bit of time up north. Grew up in a close-knit family. Dad had actually had a drafting business himself.
Oh, really?
He studied as a structural engineer in Sydney many moons ago, but focused on residential. In principle, or in short, grew up outside, outdoors, enjoyed life outside. And as a family, we were camping from, Fraser Island to Stradbroke, enjoying that lifestyle. So growing up in Cleveland in my younger years, we really enjoyed Stradbroke. We had a lot of fun there. That's where that love of four-wheel driving and fishing came. And I think the relative nature of a simple life is probably what resonates with me the most.
I think Stratty does a great job in, you can go there and have that experience. I think it'd be hard, unless you stayed at the new hotel that's there, maybe, but otherwise that's Stratty.
That's right.
You get a very down to earth, your bare feet, maybe thongs, around town, on the beach.
And that's right. It was a beautiful life, like growing up. So we spent a bit of time up north as well, Gladstone and Bundaberg. Got a bit of that country vibe in central Queensland there, which was good. And it provided a really diverse background, just in where we lived and, who we knocked around with and the experiences we shared. And so from a story point of view and thinking back on my life, our life has always been one that's focused essentially on moving forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
Trying to, when I say moving forward, without being dismissive of the past and forgetting the present or overlooking the present, but looking for new ways to learn.
Yeah.
Looking for what's coming in the future, what you can enjoy. I've got a beautiful wife, Amanda. I've got 3 gorgeous children. Very fortunate and happy that we're all healthy, and that we can enjoy time together. And so moving forward through life like that, they're beautiful moments. watching your kids grow up and then translating that story that we had. So, like I was saying at Fraser Island there, reminiscing on the times in the past where we'd walk through Central Station and we could almost drive into Lake Mackenzie and the old days where things were a lot freer, but just trying to emulate what we had for the kids today. Yeah. And I think that's a big part of who I am. Trying to create
What's it like
that.
having those memories and experiences as a kid and then now seeing it through your kids' eyes when you're seeing them experience those?
Seeing it through your children's eyes, you get to appreciate, I think, what your parents did for you.
Yeah, that's true.
You start to think, oh, that's right. This was all possible because someone else worked hard. Someone else sacrificed something to get here. Yeah. The old Land Rover going up through DI in the old days. I can remember one time Dad was bogged in this old Series 2A, I think it was. Yeah. And
would you guys come up Tiwa Beach?
Tiwa Beach, yeah. So you drive all the way through. There was plenty of sand around the rocks at the time, and the axles in those Land Rovers would always snap. And so he's bogged there, and he wouldn't reverse out. And they're memories you have, and everyone's laughing. And of course, there's the jokes about the old Landy, and but they're stories we tell. Yeah. You look back on those photos, and when you look back on them, they're core moments, they're key memories because people are smiling, you're laughing. You can almost remember what you're eating. Yeah. You can remember the fish you've caught, the fun. And I think it's the nostalgic approach to life that probably resonates as well. Because you can look, design and construction, you look to the past. Okay. Like you can look and understand how the social aspect of society influenced architecture or construction or the built environment if you look in the past. So you learn a lot about where you are now and where you're going in the future. And so when you do that in your personal life and why you enjoy those things, they start to mean that little bit more. And then translating them to the kids, I think that's it's enjoyable. It really allows for a lot of fun.
I don't know if it's the way you talk or maybe just the fact that you're talking about something that I do have so many memories about. Yeah. Being Fraser or Strady or DI. Definitely lots of memories popping back. And even there where you say you can remember the food, there's one memory I have where like my first taste of coffee was like, on the beach at dawn, and I wasn't a mad keen fisher back then. And so we'd just dig holes. Our dads would go fish and then me and our friends would just dig holes. How deep can we go? And then as a kid, you don't understand consequences. You're like, oh, let's leave this massive hole here in the middle of the beach. Yeah. Dads are like, no, fill it in.
Yeah, someone's front hub's going to be in there the next morning. That's what's going to happen.
Someone's wheel's going to be shoved through the bonnet. Yeah. How do you find that? I'm going a bit digressing here, but hearing the way you talk about memories and understanding that these experiences create memories and they can then often influence the way we live. How much of design do you believe the way you approach it is based on what you've learned through formal learning versus your experience and the experiences you've had and the memories you have? Or
that's a really good question. So your formal training can help you understand the theory. Okay. Some might challenge me on this, but I don't believe it always helps you understand the feeling. Okay. So people will travel to experience architecture or history, and that then creates a feeling. They've seen it, they've been a part of it. So you can often get the formal training that will help you with the methodical, if you could say that, the pragmatic day-to-day aspects or how you could approach a design solution. So university might help you appreciate those aspects, but I think life helps you understand how people feel and people think. So we recently had a client, we're doing a beautiful little home in Ascot at the moment, and the client made the comment that you've been able to get into our head. And so I think a large part of how our memories influence how we work is trying to understand what makes a particular client feel a certain way, why are they approaching the design from that angle? So what's brought them to this point? What's influenced them? But now, how do they want to live in the future? How has that been communicated to them from the industry? And how can I approach and listen to that client to understand what they're truly saying? And so when you try and work out how they feel, from a point of view of even getting up in the morning, so we'll often get to know our clients quite well, and we'll say that to them. Look, we want to understand how you live. Do you like getting up early in the morning? Are you an early riser? You know, is one partner up early at 5? They're the 5 a.m. club. The other one's up at 8, right? So how do we tailor your home for that living experience? And then if you're designing a home for people who have a similar ethos, it can feel very natural. Okay. Like you might relate to camping. Okay, how are we going to store the camping gear?
Yeah, thank you.
Like how are you going to pack it? Like you're going to park your cruiser here. Now you've got to travel from here to here. Yeah. If you want to reverse a boat in, how are you going to do that with that sight line? Yeah. What's your ramp over angle, and how does that space feel? What's the texture on your feet? Like what's the volume of the space? Is there going to be overlooking and you feel that you can't leave your gear out because it's in the front of house? So it's trying to understand all of those little nuances. You know, how do you entertain and those feelings?
How do you... I mean, hearing you talk about this is fascinating, and you're stretching my mind. Like, how do you hold... One, how do you dig to get all that? And because so much of, I would imagine, the little that I've had chats about it, I would really struggle to even begin to articulate, and that's why I resonate with that comment that client made, which is you got inside our heads, because I wouldn't even know where to begin to articulate my thoughts. It is just a feeling. I want it just to feel, but you need to somehow understand how I want it to feel, but I don't have the words to express it to you.
Yeah, so for some it's easier than others,
okay.
Right? The first, you have to train yourself to listen. So you got to train yourself to listen to what's being said, but also to what's not being said. And I find sometimes what people don't say actually speaks the loudest.
What's an example of that?
So, for example, they might be trying to communicate the intimacy of a bedroom arrangement and how they would like to live, how they'd like to use an ensuite, for example, how they'd like to have privacy in the bathroom, but they're really wanting to have an outdoor shower as well. They want to break out and have that natural light. So they're trying to look for words to communicate how they could live or how they want to live, but they may not have had that opportunity yet. So trying to understand, for example, where they'll go on holiday, what do they look for on a holiday, but then being happy to express ideas, to get them communicating, to get them expressing just how they feel, how they enjoy living. Like what? So it's a Boxing Day test match. Okay. What's going to happen at your house? Is everyone coming to your home at the end of the year? You're going to have 20 people around the kitchen. Yep. How are you going to live in that space? And if they say yes to that, our house is, I'm the family member that everyone comes to. Yep. So straight away, you know, okay, so you're like the link that brings everyone together. Okay, now we're going to create a space for those people. So what do you like to cook? Will we barbecue? Will we braai? So what are we doing? Yeah. Okay, well, where are we going to do it? How is that space going to relate to your day-to-day spaces? So you're aiming to listen and then trying to create a picture, a word picture. And you're also aiming to gently sell an idea, if that makes sense, without trying to control the outcome.
Because I imagine there's a degree to which they can't articulate it, and to a degree Correct. They're saying this because they think that's what they want or need because they saw some photos about it, but you listening to what they're saying and not saying you actually know what it is that they would benefit most from.
Absolutely,
and you need to sell them on that idea. Otherwise, they might be unhappy with if they just got built exactly what they've said.
Yeah, exactly. So they might be expressing something because they've seen it in a Pinterest board or they've seen it online somewhere. But as you're listening and hearing more about their day-to-day lifestyle, you learn more. So we actually will communicate to clients. It's a key role of ours is to wrap a building around you. So the more we learn about you, the more we learn about everything you enjoy, the things you do not like, the better we can wrap a building around you. So to me, that's often overlooked. See, today I feel we've designers, architects, the built environment today seems to copy the building form of the past in some way. So if you look at your Palm Springs movement or your 70s modernism, we're trying to copy that building form. But socially today, we
don't live like that.
We don't live like that.
Yeah.
We're exceptionally different today socially. So it's trying to learn, when you think of modernist design and the beautiful homes we have here in Australia, why did people enjoy them? Well, they were simple. They had natural light. They created more intimate spaces. They weren't devoid or empty, but it allowed people to come together and flow indoor and outdoor. So you want to borrow that, but then wrap it in a modern setting. So now how do we approach that with little things such as the physical size of people today, the size of cars today, how we can prevent or help security, how do we create a private space? And our allotments today are making that more and more challenging naturally as they get smaller. So you've got to really understand then how a person lives and then create a building around them. And I think that's the responsibility of us as designers when we think back about how we've enjoyed spaces, the core memories in our story and the things that we've really valued. If we can find similar expressions in others, we get a real understanding of what they're seeking to achieve. And then the building will respond. And that building becomes them. You see, it's for that client. It's not just our expression of what we feel is important, but it's also wrapped around the client. I think that's the key.
Yeah, it's interesting. I imagine one thing that I found quite surprising recently with our home, we've now been there 2 years, and as time went, like when we first rocked up to look at the home for the first time, and Carly was like, "It's it. This is it." I was like, "Okay, whoa now." Anyway, we were fortunate enough to get it, and we've gone on to love it more and more. And we didn't realize that. I mean, it's been simple little place from the 90s, but designed well, and that it's. And this is I mean, it'd be good to your input on this. If the home has formed our flow, the way we flow, move through the house, has it curated that for us, or it was just a magical match that the way we operate is also the way the home has been designed, and it flows well.
Could be a bit of both.
Yeah, okay.
And you can often walk into a home that's well designed, and we have some incredible architects in Southeast Queensland. You've got your celebrity architecture, and then you've also got your more personal architecture and design. And you can often walk into a home without knowing who designed it or the story of that home, but you walk in and you feel this just makes sense.
Yeah.
And you'll often hear people say, "I don't know what it is, but I love this home. It feels right." To me, that home or that design is connected with how we like to live.
Okay.
How we are enjoying our lives at present. Now, what works for one may not work for another.
Absolutely.
And that's why custom design is so rewarding, because it is individual.
Yep.
It's who we are, what we're trying to achieve, and where we've come from. And I think I love it. Yeah. I think that's the passion.
Okay.
That you can wrap a home around someone's lifestyle and create a memory and a story for someone else. Someone's going to grow up in that home.
Yeah.
They're going to take their first steps in the home as a small child. Mum and dad are going to watch them. There's going to be family photo albums. That aspect of design relates to how we get up of a morning, to how we enjoy life, from the very pragmatic of just parking your vehicle, coming home from work, what's the very next thing you do? Like for some clients, a home we're doing just up the road here on Sovereign, the clients clearly express, when I come in the door, I want to ensure that my office is well away from my bedroom.
Yeah.
Because I like to declutter my day at my office
Yeah.
for a little bit of time, and then I want to walk into the home.
Okay.
And so that's just a personal transition from one space to another.
So they'll be transitioning from where they park the car through the office
Correct.
space to the home.
And that's working for them.
Yeah, right.
So they're aiming to essentially, for want of a better term, detox in that short little moment.
And when you say the custom element of like that is being custom designed for that family. I walked through a home the other day where, but it's what's the term? Dinks, double income, no kids.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
I heard that the other day, and
Yeah.
they both work from home, and big bedroom, big view from the bedroom, and then you walk out of the bedroom, and then to your right, almost had this feeling as though it should be the walk-in wardrobe, but that's in the bedroom, but that's the office. Like
Right.
that's how close it is, which
Yeah.
I would gravitate more towards the office being away from the living and the bedroom, definitely.
So yeah, it's pulling those nuances out, like trying to understand that person's lifestyle and then celebrating it.
Yeah.
The home we're talking recently, we're doing now in Ascot for the couple there. Fortunately, they're not interested in a big home, which is beautiful. They're actually more focused on refined spaces.
Are you seeing that more? What trend are you actually? I'm digressing. I want to unpack more about hearing this, how you approach things today. I want to unpack more about how you got to that approach.
Okay.
How did you get into this space? Design, was it straight out of school? Your dad was in that design space? For
Yeah, Stevie was running a small family business.
Stevie was father?
Dad, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so we were up north at the time. And so we were constantly involved with builders. You know, builders were coming and going. Construction, I guess, was always part of our life growing up. Mum and Dad were building homes. You know, we moved up north, they built a new home. And so you remember those aspects of a kid when you move into your brand new home. It's your bedroom. You know, you've picked your bedroom on the plan. You said, okay, this is mine.
Yeah.
Your younger brother, he can go to that one because I'm having this one. So there's there's those little fun things. So as I grew up, I was in Bundaberg at the time. So I studied at Central Queensland University. So I left school. I was working at Australia Post actually.
Really?
From about 4:30 a.m. in the morning, sorting mail, to about 8:30, I think it was. And
what's your big takeaway from that?
Well, at that stage, it was more about earning money because you just started uni.
Yep.
So in those days, we had to pay for textbooks.
Okay.
So not only did we have our university fees,
Yep.
but we also had physical books, etc. So I went there in the morning, and I'd work there early, sorting mail. I'd come home, and then I'd work for Dad for, say, 2 days a week. And then the other days I'd study.
Okay.
And then on the weekend, I was actually also a waiter. So I worked at a
Wow.
local restaurant. And so I'd work, Friday and Saturday nights.
That's quite a spectrum of vocations
Yeah,
at one time.
At one time.
Yeah.
So, I was studying at the time. And so, Bachelor of Building Design. And eventually it got to a point where I was like, okay, I've really just got to concentrate the energy here. This is a bit ridiculous because you're young, you're out of school. I was very fortunate because Dad had all the equipment. So I could work in his office, learn basic drafting, but I had all the equipment that a lot of kids back then didn't have, whether it be CAD, photocopiers, all of those things to do your assignments. And a lot of the textbooks he actually had, not all of them.
Yeah.
But there were some key ones there that I didn't have to go buy, which was really good. So I guess the story started to keep rolling on from there. So I always had a passion for design in the context of I enjoyed creating spaces that other people enjoyed.
Okay.
So I felt...
Where was the first time you got to experience that?
The first time would have been working with Dad, but it was just that client, that buzz that you would get when someone says, "I like that." Yeah, I can see that. But like Dad's little practice, it wasn't really going to allow me to grow.
Okay.
You see, so it was quite small.
Okay.
Again, simple, lifestyle first.
Yeah.
We don't need to work ourselves to death. And so I think I was 19. So I was studying at night essentially, and 1 day a week, working almost full time. I caught the tilt train from Bundaberg.
Yeah.
Queensland's version of a fast train. And 4 hours later, rocked up at Roma Street and walked up to an interview with a firm called Hargraves Briggs Jacuzzi Architects. And my world from an architectural point of view really opened up.
Wow.
And so...
What were you exposed to there?
Well, Brad and Fred they had essentially inherited an older firm that was quite a large healthcare practice. And so we were involved with aged care, schools, the odd residential house. So I really lost the housing connection there.
Okay. But Stevie was more in resi.
Stevie was only in resi, yeah. And so then with Brad and Fred, they were gold. And they were your well-trained, well-qualified... I don't want to say traditional in the sense of, because it does invoke the wrong thought at times when you use the word traditional, but they had skills that could design and document.
Okay.
So they knew how to design a building, specify products, and do the construction documentation. So my world opened up. So we were exposed to a beautiful environment there, because a lot of young designers are often put in big practices and they just do boring details all day. They don't really get exposed to the entire process. So really had opportunity to learn
I can
a
imagine
very broad spectrum there.
The little exposure I've had for, one of the guys I work with is one of Australia's top building certifiers.
Oh, yeah.
And so just hearing him talk about obviously the difference in good documentation
Yeah.
for and he does specialize in aged care and hospitals and
Yep.
and just the level at which that would need to be
documented.
is
Absolutely,
just
yeah.
incredible.
And that was fun. So, and then after that interview, so I got that job, obviously, and they were really good to work with, Brad and Fred. So worked with them for a while. And eventually thought, no, I've got to keep developing the skills. So worked with a developer in Queensland. And that, again, was then starting to go down more your multi-res.
Okay.
So a small cog in a big wheel, so to speak, with that developer. And then Amanda and we took off to London. And I was working with a company over, I don't believe they're around now, they possibly are, Anshin and Allen. They were healthcare experts, so we're working on the London clinic in the cancer treatment ward, about 5 stories below ground, working out the room.
5 stories below ground.
Yeah, for their medical treatment.
Wow.
Yeah, it was fascinating. So they have a medical planners or medical architects,
Yep.
highly skilled individuals designing, spaces for doctors. And so observing their skills and how they approach things was amazing. And then with another company, RTKL, international architectural firm, and that was good.
Yeah.
That was fun.
What did you get exposed to there?
So again, we went into resi then.
Okay.
So we're focused on multi-residential developments. During that time, the GFC, so a bit of a big turning point in our life, in our story for Amanda and I. But in essence, I was living in North London. I'd jog over. I was a lot fitter back then, but I'd jog over Primrose Hill, in through the West End. I'd go into Berwick Lane. I'd grab a flat white from, I think it was one of the original coffee shops there in London. It was literally called Flat White.
Okay.
And I remember it was £4 for a flat white. And to my colleagues at the time, they were like, "What are you doing? £4 for a coffee? I can get one for 50p and it's great." And I'm like, "Mate, your 50p coffee's rubbish. Okay. I don't believe it's actually got coffee in it." Okay. And so Berwick Lane, where this little coffee shop was, is actually, it's Oasis, what's the story, Morning Glory, the album cover. That's Berwick Lane, and that's in London, so in the West End. And that their little shop was just there. It might still be there, I'm not sure. But I'd grab a coffee. I'd go into Savile Row with one firm, and then just down the road with RTKL. And we were doing beautiful work in the Middle East.
Whoa.
And
what kind of work over there?
so multi-rise residential, so apartments, residential living, so mixed use. So your ground floor plane would be commercial, retail, sports, that style. Three levels of underground car park, that style.
And how many stories
of
above?
developments? Oh, each tower varied. So some were 20, some were 30, some were 10. So it's a multi-stage development. So that style of work as a
Do
team.
we see much of that kind of work here in Australia?
Not these days, not at the moment, not on that scale.
Is that the kind of work you might see, that kind of stuff over in like Miami, Florida?
Think Olympic villages. So think like if you're
Okay.
going to create an Olympic village, you might have 2 or 3 residential towers,
Yeah.
Villas on the ground floor, things of that nature, retail spaces, sports spaces, parks. You're creating a precinct. And the GFC came along. And so, the client in the Middle East essentially rang and said, the project's off. So you can have, in a project like that, as an architectural team, you can be involved in that for years as they develop each stage.
Yeah.
So
how,
it can
how
be
many
quite
team members
rewarding.
would be working together on that?
I think just in the London office, there would have been at least 10 to 12.
Wow.
Just on that project at the time. They would just share workflow though. It'd go over to China. So it's a big firm, but it was a really beautiful firm to work with. They were good people and had a lot of fun there. And so I had a really good contract.
Yeah.
Amanda was working as a personal assistant with investment bankers.
Yeah.
So she had a fantastic job. So we're both loving living there in England. And GFC came through. They canned the project. So, my boss came in and just said, look, guys, sorry, but everything's off. This is diabolical. So I remember in London, and it puts a perspective on material things, people coming home with boxes on the tube, crying.
And that would have happened overnight.
Oh, overnight. There were I think what people in Australia missed was the scale. The thousands of people at all these big banks that lost their jobs. And so they're being asked to leave. So you're seeing these people on the tube leaving London or the Isle of Dogs, the financial, out there in that area. And in essence, what they're doing is they're bringing their box of what was on their desk because they've left that day. Yeah. Then you've got all the superannuation that's dried up. You've got governments trying to respond. So the Northern Hemisphere was affected far greater, I think, than what we were here in Australia. And that's not being insensitive to the ones who lost a lot here.
Yeah.
But I think seeing it on thousands of people, that's interesting. So I lost my contract.
Amanda lost.
Amanda kept her job.
Okay.
She was in a really good position, which was really fortunate for us. Yeah. But the next day, Amanda says, I'm pregnant.
Oh.
And I'm like, wow.
That puts a different perspective on things.
So, we're in England. Just lost an incredible contract. Yeah. And it was interesting because our boss said, look, you don't have to come in for the next week or 2 or whatever it was. Yeah. We'll pay you out. That's fine. That's the terms of the contract. He said, if you like, you're welcome to come in, jump onto another project. And I thought, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. Yeah. We hadn't planned any holidays. I wasn't going to sit at home and cry over spilt milk. Yeah. And I thought if that happens, I may not have to confront the reality of the fact that I'm going to be a father in, 9 months. So I toddled off back to work and enjoyed it. Got on another team, helped them out with their projects, worked on that, had a great time. And it was that relationship there. They actually tried to then keep me on.
Okay.
Sadly, because of the legalities at the time, they couldn't let staff go, but then keep me.
Yeah.
So there was some sensitivities there, but they were really good, and they just appreciated the fact that I rocked back up and enjoyed the next week. And so then we had a nice big party up the Gherkin. Mary's Axe, you know, the building in London. It's shaped like a gherkin.
I think yes.
Yeah, so up on the top floor of that, we had an awesome cocktail party there, which was fun, and they gave everyone a really nice send-off, which was really good. And I guess that really shaped up. Then we decided to come home. We didn't want to come home when the kids were teenagers, so I thought, look, let's get back home and let's team up with some old colleagues. We'll work again, and got back into the residential sector.
Okay.
And then essentially started developing Green Coast building design.
At that stage,
started developing that, getting our insurances ready, all of those things, equipment, software, and then started going. And then we've just never looked back. We've just kept going.
At that point, when you started, what was most important to you that Green Coast was going to represent? With all of what you had experienced, worked on, interactions, projects, what was most important to you to bring into Green Coast?
I wanted to be able to enjoy the work, so I had to enjoy work, but I wanted it to work for me.
Okay.
So what I wanted out of Green Coast as a business was, how do I say it? I'd just seen a lot of people lose everything. They had lost literally everything. Yeah. And it puts everything in perspective. You can work and work and work, and then suddenly
for the
have
one
nothing.
day, and then
the one day and suddenly have nothing.
Yeah.
So you're trying to balance that with, well, you can't have everything now, right? Yeah. That's obvious. Yeah. Okay. But I guess the most important thing for Amanda and I was that the business just represented our core values. And our core value would be around honesty and spending time. We spend an incredible amount of time with our clients. Yep. And a builder we do some work with has said to me, Aaron, no one that he works with, and he works with quite a few designers and architects, spends the time that we do. And I think giving people your time so that they can have confidence on what they're getting. But I just didn't want work to dominate me. Okay. In a simple, I didn't want it to own me. But then enjoy the journey. Because sometimes people only want to enjoy the destination. But like we talked about going up the Cape, taking the cruiser up there and enjoying that, like it's a long way. Yeah. There's so much fun to have along the journey. And the reality is Cape York it's a photo with a sign. Like that's ultimately what it is. You know, you go for a walk over the headland there and that's it. But to get there is the fun part. And I think the journey along developing your practice, upskilling, you know, learning the hard way on some things and then adapting. But the core value was that it wouldn't own us. Okay. We'd have the time to be able to put things in balance. Because I've just seen so many people burn out and I didn't want that. I often say to the kids, you know, a sign of being successful is being available. So when you're available for those ones who you love, that's a good success story.
Yeah,
because
that's a take on success I've never heard, but I like that.
Yeah, so that really shaped us, to be honest. It really gave us a good perspective on what can happen in the construction industry. And like a lot of ones in the construction industry now, especially if they're new, they haven't been through a downturn yet. They haven't seen it fall off a cliff. And you get really annoyed when you see those articles saying everything's bad. Oh, yeah. We don't need the negativity, but we still need to understand that things can change.
Totally. We are trying to do our best part to change that narrative in the industry, because it's that the mass media just is rubbish.
Well, the mass media and their advertisements. Yeah, if you dig a little
the negative
deeper,
sells. It just
absolutely.
Yeah, we could definitely go down that rabbit hole for a long time, but we won't. Okay. So one thing I'm really keen on, I've been looking forward to for a while on this podcast to dig down with you is your approach. Yep. Because you, when I was doing a bit of digging, I was like, oh wow, okay. You do some work with Dwayne on some of his projects, and hearing what the narrative he puts out there about the importance of working really well with a designer. I thought, okay, well then you must do some things well. I'd really like to unpack that with you. And then you raised some things that I thought was fascinating when I asked for some notes from you. And that's what I'd like to spend time in today.
Yeah, sure.
Talk me through how you feel. Trying to think of how I want to word the question. Probably should have written it down before I word it. But there's the usual narrative out there of what people can paint, the frustrations when it comes to with builders and designers. And I've met some of those designers, and they hold their position quite strongly. But you approach it quite differently. And you, your words, not mine. Tell me if I'm butchering them here.
No,
but
you're right.
Builders, you should expect more from your designer.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's controversial, I feel, coming from a designer. Talk me through why. Explain that to me. Break that down for me.
So we could probably talk all day on this, and we could go down different avenues, trying to put it in context why builders should expect more from their designer. If I answer that question, then I'll circle back if I can. Totally. In principle, a builder will be very good at managing trades. They'll walk into a project, whether it be a timber floor, plasterer, waterproofer, no matter what it is. They can pick up on things being done right or done poorly, whether it be right from the initial quoting phase or even on site. But I found there's sometimes a trend for builders to not expect the same of a consultant through quality documentation. So the industry today has put all the responsibility on builders. They're the bank.
Yeah.
They have to manage defective products. They have to maintain warranties.
Yes.
And we've really dialed up the pressure on those builders. And when you think about design and the impact it makes, expecting more of your designer can request more documentation, clarity of documentation, and understanding the design intent, but then how it will be delivered. So is that communicated by the designer prior to going to contract? Or is that designer expecting you as the builder to work it out during the contract?
Talk me through this concept of understanding design intent, because that's something we work with. I would say the builders of ours that I believe have great relationships with their designers. If we're helping from a marketing perspective, that's definitely a message we help them put out there, is that they go to extreme lengths to really understand and respect and appreciate the design intent. How do you go about communicating that well? Because that's it's a two-person, what's the word? It takes two people to dance that.
Yeah,
one
two
person
people
needs to
to tango.
communicate well, and another person needs to ask good questions and listen. And
So design intent can often be used, and not always, but sometimes you might get an architect or a designer who says, well, the design intent was X.
okay,
But I didn't say that. I didn't clearly explain that. But my design intent is this should have happened. So that's why I'm saying expect more of your designer. So if that was the design intent, how has the designer communicated that?
okay,
How have they illustrated that on documents? How has the specification complemented that design intent? So there's that aspect or that approach to design intent. The other side of that coin is a builder understanding the design methodology, what the design is seeking to achieve. So, for example, the physical construction could be quite complex.
okay,
You might have an incredible amount of steel, glass, shop drawings, suspended concrete, etc. So the builder's understanding the intent of what the designer is seeking to achieve. But to get them both on the same page, again, you need the time. So the designer needs to open up the book, so to speak. Invite the builder in. This is my intent.
How early in your perspective, should the builder be invited in to things?
We don't actually, good question. We don't have a rule on that. We find that it works best on a project. You've got to be adaptable.
Okay.
So with the builders we work with, we like to invite them in early. And the builders we work with aren't interested in designing homes. They want to build homes.
Okay.
Yeah, they're good at building. And so we don't feel that they're there to challenge us. I know a lot of designers think, oh, the builder's challenging me. We just don't, you know what they say, the best way not to have an attitude problem is not to start one. So by getting together, and the way to do that is project is king.
Okay. What does that mean?
So your project, the built outcome is king. That's what we're working for.
In terms of like getting this built.
Yeah.
Yeah, love
Getting
that.
this built. So the project being king means that the builder's ego, the designer's ego, it just needs to take a little bit of a step back,
Backseat.
take a bit of a backseat, work together and go, okay, how do we deliver your vision? So how can I as the builder then complement that? Like how can I find a strategy that will give you that built form, but maybe I can sequence that construction in such a fashion that it shaves 3 months off a program. Maybe I could look for some alternate construction methods, whether it be precast or whether it be a factory solution that can be a delivery model that allows that design to be delivered. So now you're collaborating because your focus is on the project. Okay.
Yeah.
The designers created the project around the client's lifestyle, if they know what they're doing.
Okay.
So now we're all working on the same path. You see, it's not there as a challenge. But with the builders we work with, we'll often disagree too, and that's okay.
Okay.
You'll approach things differently, and you'll go, no, we need to head down this path, and these are the reasons why. But I think we've got to explain those. And so when we think about that question of expecting more from your designer, I'll often see really good builders working off exceptionally poor documentation.
What does that look like for someone who's uneducated? I would look at it. I wouldn't know the difference between good documentation and poor documentation.
So you might have heard a set of building approval drawings.
Okay. Yes.
So a building approval set of drawings is often described as a base level set of drawings.
Okay.
So you might have a site plan, a floor plan, 4 elevations, a couple of sections, a written window and door schedule, maybe some bracing and tie down. That's a typical drafting solution, but no product specification, no coordination with the structural engineer, no services coordination on site from a pipe locator, no specification that outlines the quality, the finish, the physical materials. So quality documentation will be coordinated. So not only will you set the building out correctly, you'll have your site plan, your site works documentation, site sections to establish the building pad, the height, the driveway heights, fencing heights. Then you've got your slab layout drawings, your roof framing, elevations, sections, window and door schedules, hardware schedules, interior design schedules. So all your cabinetry, your appliance schedules, and on and on. So it's fully documented.
Okay.
So that means the builder can take those documents and say, I understand exactly the level of finish, the scale of the bulk and form, but also the scope of works. Okay, what is the full scope of works for this project? Often a set out point. Like where does the builder initially start that job on site? Where's the point the builder should start building from? So those little discussions need to be had in a collaborative manner where you're tailoring it for that particular project.
Yeah.
And that's why we say it's not good to have a set rule.
Okay.
As a team, you want to sit down and say, well, this is the design brief. Okay. And I'll circle back to that. But quality documentation should allow everyone to know the scope of works, the level of finish.
Okay.
And so you might see some documents that have 100 pages of drawings. You might see some drawings that have 10, projects that have 10.
Okay.
So there's a vast difference. Now, a certifier will often stamp the same drawings.
Okay.
And so I think there's a big disparity in our industry to what we're approving, what I see building certifiers approve, and what I see builders building off. Now, some builders like that because they can kick the can down the road. There's no documentation.
So then what?
Well, there's nothing that's accountable. It all goes back to the contract. You see, the builder's contract may outline the detail, but there's no physical drawing to outline the scope. Okay, so there you get variations.
Paint for me the narrative as that unfolds.
So without documentation that outlines the design, the scope of works, and the level of finish, the question is who's making those decisions? Because they haven't been made at the design stage.
Okay.
So the client hasn't been informed of them, for example.
Which means there hasn't been an accurate price
Correct.
put to what's filling the void or what's...
Exactly. So there's this
what
big...
is that cladding or...
Yeah, there's this big hole.
Okay.
Vertical cladding, for example.
Yes.
Is it timber, aluminium, fibre cement? What style of cladding is it? Is it worked on a cavity batten system?
Yeah. Okay.
What's the wall insulation? What's the paint finish? Is it oiled?
And you
Is
get
it
drawings
pre-finished?
without that information?
Yeah, absolutely. So that happens every day of the week.
Oh, wow.
And so you'll get a builder then. Sometimes builders like that
Okay.
because then they can write the narrative. Okay. But what often happens is it'll lead to a complicated approach with variations or expectations not being met. And so the client, the person paying the bill, right, says, I didn't know I was getting that. Or I didn't want that. So if a client's saying that, it means it was never documented.
Okay.
Which means we've now got these discussions on site that can sometimes turn very ugly
Okay.
very quickly. Okay, so that's what we refer to by quality documentation is designed to support the builder's business. It's not there to scare them off or hold them to account. It's there so that the client has a thorough understanding of what they're receiving, that the builder and all the trades know exactly what they have to build, what they're pricing. Then the builder can come along and say, well, I would like to construct this home in this fashion. And I'd like to use, say, for example, block work in these cases rather than in situ concrete. I can save a lot of money. I don't need to use in situ concrete there. It's lined anyway, so let's not waste the money on in situ concrete. We'll use concrete block work there. We can sequence that better, and it's just more affordable.
Yeah.
So then you can have those collaborative discussions. So yeah, there's a bit of a lack of balance in the industry, and I think designers need to step up across the board. They need to step up across the board and be willing to work with builders. But I think we also need to see builders expect more and say, no, you provide more quality documentation, more dimensions, more construction detailing. Now, a lot of people are going to hear these comments and say, yeah, but who's paying for it?
Yes.
Okay. Because that means the client's investing more money in the design phase.
Because I was going to say, this is starting to sound like a wonderful solution to the whole issue of design, emotional attachment, over budget.
Yeah. Yep. So there's another way to mitigate that.
Okay.
I can touch on that as well.
Please do. Yeah.
But in essence, the methodology there is by the client, you will pay for it. Okay. Quality documentation will save money later on.
Okay.
So it depends on how you pay for it. You pay for it in missed opportunities. You pay for it in your expectations not being met. Or you pay for it in variations on site. And so variations slow down the contract, they slow down the build. It's not a great solution for anyone. So quality design documentation is actually there to complement the build. And it means that we can take a little bit more time, just get it right. Yeah. And where you collaborate with a builder is the builder can look at that pre-contract and say, oh, look, I wouldn't build it that way. I'd probably suggest we take this approach. And it might be that the builder sees something the designer doesn't. Okay. Like they might notice, look, that's just not going to hold up.
Yeah.
It's going to crack.
Okay.
Looks great. It's fantastic. It's looking really good, but I'm just not confident long-term that solution will be viable. Could we look at doing this?
Okay.
So then the designer can adapt.
Yeah.
Yeah. They can maybe take a different approach. Now, when it comes to your comment on costs and budget, our process really focuses on a different approach. It's not up to the designer or the architect to understand the builder's business model to predict the builder's costs and profit margin 9-12 months ahead in the future based on industry variance.
Okay.
So it's not the designer's responsibility to do that. Okay. So how we approach it is we educate our clients that we as a team are going to demonstrate how much it costs to deliver what they would like to achieve. And once we educate ourselves, the builder and the design team and the client on that cost, the client can then choose what they would like to spend money on. So that allows a lot of control and also a lot of flexibility for the client. So we have an ethos there that focuses on educating clients on the costs. It's not my right as a designer or a builder's right to turn around and say, that's too expensive. You can't afford that. They've got to demonstrate that. Okay. And I always use the approach of, say, a polished concrete, suspended polished concrete. You might have a designer and he or she, they've designed this beautiful home, it's suspended polished concrete. The builder looks at it and says, oh no, it's too expensive. You can't do that. But the reason the builder's saying that is he doesn't have a good relationship with a concreter, form workers. They're more in tune to doing, say, a timber subfloor. Okay. So that's their methodology. That's just who they are. Yeah, it's not a bad thing. That's just who they are. So they have a tendency to say, well, that's too expensive.
Okay.
So now this is where designers get a bit frustrated because now the builder's starting to control the narrative of what the design is.
Okay.
What we say is, let's demonstrate how much that costs.
Okay.
Okay. Then let's let the client decide if they feel that's too expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whether they value
and whether
keeping
they
that
absolutely
or coming up with another solution.
And that way it takes this imaginary you're in control of the budget. It doesn't exist. The client's in control of the budget because the client reserves the right to spend more or to spend less. That's their choice. They're the paying customer. So it always amazes. I was chatting with two architects the other day who were just questioning and just trying to learn on how do you work with clients, with builders and budgets in that collaborative manner.
Yeah.
Because often what can happen through a build is clients will spend more money post the design and in the contract, right? And if there's one thing that frustrates us designers, it's that.
Okay.
Like if you're going to set a budget of $1 million or a spend of $1 million, but then through the build you spend another $500,000, we will design your house differently for you. If we know you're going to spend that extra $500,000, tell us.
What's an example of that? Where does that extra 500 go?
Well, generally in finishes, okay? Generally in finishes or up-speccing or maybe increasing the built form, maybe adding on extra space, for example, or volume.
Pushing that wall out.
Pushing that wall out here or there, maybe opening up roof lights or changing a roof structure to get a rake ceiling as opposed to a truss solution, anything of that nature. But a designer will approach the entire project differently if they know you're going to spend an extra $500,000 or whatever that price might be. Okay. So by then taking away that threat that you're hamstrung by budget, you're now saying to the client, well, let's demonstrate what it's going to cost to achieve what you would like to have.
Yeah.
Now the client has the dignity of making the decision. And that's how our process is fundamentally different. And by spending that time with the client, everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
You see?
That's that's makes a lot of sense. When you first started talking, I was like, I'm wondering where this is going because when you said it, it's not my responsibility to design with price or cost, or it began to sound like,
oh yeah, we don't
design
care.
with a magic pen.
No, see, often in an Institute of Architects agreement, contractual agreement with a client, you can cross out the responsibility of, I forget what clause it is. We don't use an Institute of Architects agreement. Obviously, we're not architects. So, but they'll often cross that out. Okay. So that makes the architect completely has no responsibility for cost, whatsoever. So for a builder who's listening to this or a client, it's one of the reasons you need to establish the designer and builder's approach to cost early on in the design process and have that written into your client designer agreement. Okay. And so we have found that the method of outlining costs, and I say that within reason and respect, if someone says to you, look, we've got $1 million budget, you're not going to go and design a $2 million product. Yeah. Okay. But I have
heard of that.
Yeah. hypothetically, let's just say you design a $1.5 million product and you say to the client, your design brief requires this. We've followed your design brief and we're educating you now on how it's over budget or over your desired spend. Then as designers, take the time to say, we could do A, B, or C to this scale or this size of home. Yep. reduced its scale, therefore reduce cost, or we could maybe lighten up some of the finishes or alter the building form to reduce the cost.
What's an example of finishes that would have a big impact on the price, where you could sort of vary up and down a spectrum?
Well, if you look at something as simple as, say, tiles, you might have a $50 a metre tile, or a $100 or a $500 a metre tile. They might come from Italy.
Okay.
They've got a lead time. They need multiple coats of sealant. They need 2 humans to lay them because of the scale and size of those tiles. Therefore, wastage risk is increased. The builder's program is increased in time. So everything costs more, and it's just one finish. So you could design a 6 metre by 3 metre pool, for example. Say a pool shell. Generally, a pool shell is relatively affordable.
Okay.
Right? But
Pool
let's
shell
just
being the concrete.
just the concrete
form.
shell. Yeah.
Got it.
So let's just say it costs 50 grand for argument's sake.
Yes.
Yep. That same pool could cost the client $150,000 purely based on the finish.
Okay.
Fully tiled, the filtration system, the surrounds,
Yep.
the heater, the technology in the pool. All of that is your finish. Okay. So an example of contract costs going up is finishes. So you might say to the client, if we take our $150 tiles down to $50, you've saved considerable amount of money. If we reduce the home from a 350 square metre home, which is a big home, if we reduce that down to 275 square metres, you've saved this much in rough terms.
Yes.
So you're giving the client the dignity to go, okay, where do I want to spend my money?
Yeah. Leaving the decision with them.
Absolutely. And that gives them the opportunity to make an informed decision. Because we always like playing the devil's advocate. As designers, if we turned around and said to a client, you can't afford that, and let's just say for argument's sake, they chose not to pursue a development and then realised that they could afford it, we would really find ourselves in a position where we've given a huge disservice to the client. Massive disservice.
And it comes back to what you're saying earlier in terms of the overall goal here is that this gets built.
Absolute. Project's king.
Project's king.
So if you're doing that in a collaborative manner where budget's not this dirty word, like it's one line item on your design brief. And if everyone's respectful of common sense and working as a team to get the best outcome, it gives you the opportunity to educate the client. 9 out of 10 times I've found the client will say, if it costs 1.5 for everything I want, I'll increase my budget now from 1 to 1.5. Now, that doesn't always happen, but often it does, okay? Because now the client can see physically, this is what I would like, and that's the cost.
Yeah, that's a concept I know I try to remind our guys often of, and they would all agree that they've had the experience where a client has said, this is my budget, but by the end of the build, they've spent a considerable amount more, and they are ecstatic with the outcome.
Yeah, that's right.
And so helping our guys understand that when someone says, this is my budget, that doesn't mean that is to the last penny what they have. That is what they, at this stage, have deemed what they're willing to invest in the project.
That's their understanding of what it will cost.
Correct.
Yeah.
And once they understand, you bring a solution to the way they want to live. I'd never thought about that. Yeah, actually, a really big alfresco area or having a garage that flows. Yeah, that would be amazing. I could go and find another 50 grand to have that in.
Yep.
That now that I understand that is available, I deem it valuable. Valuable enough for me to go and find that money.
Yeah, and now we're creating a home around someone's lifestyle. And now the whole team feels comfortable. The client's comfortable. They're being educated on costs. The builder doesn't feel like he's being or she is being scrutinized. No one feels like they're being ripped off. It's just that the process is now allowing the creativity to keep going. The buildability is coming into it, the sequencing, the construction programming, and now everyone's got a clear picture prior to going to contract.
Okay.
So if you're doing all of that prior to contract, all of a sudden you don't have to have time delays for variations. You can program your construction sequencing with far more confidence.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's not to say there's not nuances. Like every project's going to have nuances. There's going to be little peculiarities and things that we have to overcome.
Yeah.
construction feels like you're trying to throw a dart at a moving wheel at times across the industry.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a long way to describe that question. Like, how do we do it? Like, in principle, as designers, we focus on a design brief. Really, that design brief is focused on getting to know the client.
Yeah.
Then we translate that written brief to an illustrated brief, sketches. So translating it from written words to a drawn form to then see the brief on paper. And when that's on paper, we then start to develop that idea and illustrate that idea with more detail.
Yeah.
And then we follow that all the way through to obviously construction drawings where a builder will come along and provide the contract to construct that.
I feel design. As though I posed the question and I was expecting you to try and fit the answer within this box. And I was like, I wonder how you're going to fit inside that box, because that's my perception. The answer needs to fit inside that box. And you've gone and answered it and gone, hang on a sec. There's more to that box than what you've put there, which is fascinating. And maybe you've answered this already through that, and I definitely agree to a large extent you have. But what do you think, why do you think there's these projects being designed and not going to site? That's it. Just the reason I raise that is because that's a narrative I'm hearing a lot about guys' frustration on working hard,
and not being built. The home not being built.
And this big, it could for some people, big projects $500,000. For some people, big projects $3 million. For some people, it's and then that just falls out last minute of their pipeline.
There's lots of reasons why that happens. Like, in principle, it's the one that everyone will resonate with the most is the designer or architects design something the client can't afford. And designers and architects, I don't understand why they don't get a builder in, to be brutally honest. Like, a big ethos we've got is working truly collaboratively with builders. A builder we worked with actually mentioned once that it's like you guys don't try to hide things from us. You're actually open. This is what we're trying to achieve, right? But I think the real reason there is most often is that designers are working independently and not seeking external advice from a quantity surveyor and or a builder, and then being afraid to have that conversation with the client. The other side that's often not communicated, though, is what the client's driving. So the client can often be the driver of that, and the designer or architect's just responding to their instruction from the client. And so now the builder blames the designer. The designer says, well, go away. I've just followed what the client's told me to do. So I think it's probably very hard to put a definitive sentence on why that happens. There's multiple reasons. The way to stop it from happening, though, regardless of the reason, if you collaborate early through the design process with a builder, and that means you'll go and interview a couple of builders. So you'll have a concept design. You've got your design brief. You've developed up a concept, hand sketches, early 3D, illustrated form maybe, and you're seeking to see who is available, who would like to build that. So you might interview 2 or 3 builders with the client.
Talk me through, because that was going to be my next sort of area I wanted to go into with you. That process. Let's say a client is not coming to you with a builder already in mind, and you're going to help them choose a builder. In that process there, what are you looking for? And what's going to help one guy stand out from another?
Yeah, so we can often watch a builder or observe builders for a while before we talk to them. Okay. So again, design brief, we've come up with a concept design. Some builders will have a business model that suits that particular build. Their team, they've got an established team, they're available. Okay, so for example, we would look at, is the builder working out of, is he a small team that can actually take this project on? Or is he a team that can actually look after this project comfortably? Because those two aspects are going to determine whether or not they're suitable for the client. So you're really trying to tailor a builder who's available and suitable and has built similar outcome. Okay, and then introducing them to the project and allowing the client to interview the builder. How do they work? Can I go and look at past projects? Can I actually have an opportunity to talk with past clients and get to know how they've responded? Were they happy with everything? How did you communicate? So we often will do that in the background. And so the way we approach that is focusing on a concept design, because now you've got something to talk about. So if you're talking about a blank sheet of paper, just go around in circles. Someone's got to take the lead and put something on paper. And when you do that, the builders can come in and go, hey, yeah, look, I'm really keen for that. I really want to give that a go. And in fact, I've actually got a similar project on right now. So all of a sudden, the client's going, this could be our team. Yeah. And so that's how we do it. Interview and work with good people. Surround yourself with good people is a huge key.
When you say good people, what is a metric for that? What do you look for?
Well, a good person, okay, they're going to communicate, they're going to respond, they're going to listen, they're going to be adaptable, they're going to understand that the project is king, and they're going to work with you. You don't want a one-way relationship where you're, like we bring along, lots of clients will come to us and, we're introducing the client to the builder, and the builders are then working through our design process with us. These projects aren't going to tender. So I don't know if they touch on that much, but we don't go to tender. We'll go through a negotiated contract with the client, work with them one-on-one with the builder, and because we've established that this builder is suitable for them. And because we're demonstrating costs, now you have that transparency and a scope of works. There's two things aligned.
That process will definitely resonate with most, if not majority, of the builders that we in our audiences. I must say that's your approach. It makes a lot of sense. Heavy on collaboration, heavy on educating. Because definitely I've heard the story of in addition to the other narrative that we've mentioned is out there. The one where the client goes, I can see that you've quoted X for that job. I want that job, but I'm not paying that. And then they just get bogged, and it's
Absolutely.
like, then it's not so much the architect or the builder's fault. The client's just, wanting something that doesn't exist.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's easy to blame the builder. It's easy to blame the designer. Everyone looks to blame someone. We don't need to do that. It truly just go back over how the process worked, look at the positives, take away the good aspect and focus on the good. Like look at how it worked and why it worked and how you're collaborating. Is the designer or is the design firm actually sharing information? And then as a builder, how long does it, like the biggest frustration for us is how long it takes some builders to get back to us with pricing, right? This is where a lot of builders will struggle to work, or designers will push back basically and say, no, I'm not working with you. And there's a way to get around it. Okay. Traditionally a builder might take, 8-10 weeks to price a project. To do that, they'll need all the information, which means the client has invested in the design process to find out the cost. What designers are seeking early in the design process is probable costings. Probable. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to say, your last project that's similar bulk and scale, although it's a different site, what was the cost? That product is a $1.5 or a $2.5 or a $4 million product. Okay. You can then say to the client, that physical product there that you can see, you can drive past, was $4 million. Do you feel that that's going to meet your expectations price-wise because your home's heading that way? Yes, I am. I'm comfortable with that. Okay. Everyone's on the same page. So what we need early in the design process is probable costings. And I think what happens is often the builder feels pressured that they've got to go out and create a specification, create the schedule, do all this work to get a 100% accurate figure because they're afraid that when they give a figure, the client is going to hold them to that. So they're
definitely something I've heard a lot of.
Yeah, they're reluctant to give the figure. We really try to break that down through our design process, and we'll have that conversation with the client. Don't hold the builder to this figure. This is us shaping up the overall costs for your project. So it's going to be a minimum of X. Is that going to meet your expectations to deliver everything you want? And often the client will say, look, it's more than I want to spend. Could we cap it here? Let's cap it here, and let's just focus in a little bit more.
Okay.
Like, let's just scale things down and let's just refine. And can we just get a bit more attention on just scaling back a bit?
Yeah.
And now we're all heading in the right direction.
Do you find when it comes to that approach or approaching the project at the beginning, you're trying to gauge when we talk about how the client's going to live in it and how feel in it, is that largely leaning on the textures inside, or the reason what I'm sort of getting at is what I think I've mentioned on the podcast before, one of our builders takes the approach of what sort of finish and feeling are you going for? You design builder, and okay. Now I have, because I've built plenty of homes, I know how much that finish costs. And now we work at, okay, if that's the finish you want, and these are, ideas of, how many rooms and whatever else. Okay, this is the floor square meter that I can allow for you to have that feeling. When you walk in, you're going to have that feeling. But it might mean you don't have this huge void foyer walking in, or...
Yeah. We generally don't work on square meterage rates, generally. And the reason I say that is custom design's obviously so very different, okay? We would approach it more from a bulk and scale point of view, the physical size of the home, and the building's form. So when I say form, how it's articulated. Is it got cantilevered spaces, large volume? Does it open up to the north with large volume skylights or clear void openings, etc.? Okay. To me, that's where you're focusing your initial attention. Your space planning will give you the overall size. Then your building form and style will help you appreciate, how you're going to approach your scaffolding, how you're going to approach your superstructure. Is there formwork in it? All of those things. Then the texture, from a designer's point of view, you've already got in mind right from when you're sketching and listening to that individual, the textures that you're wanting to bring in. You may not yet have communicated them.
Okay.
You're just focusing. Conceptual design or concept design is about space, the relationship from one space to another, and the bulk and scale.
Okay.
Yeah, and probably a lot that's overlooked is where that house sits on a site. So a good designer will be spending a lot of time working out how is this going to physically sit on the site, the height and relationship to the topography.
Okay.
So in concept design, that's what you're focusing on, because once you've got your structure up, you can then say as a builder and a designer, look, we feel, given the nature of the build or the design, you're heading down a path of X amount of dollars, and that is based on this home here that's already built. Yeah.
But taking into consideration location, orientation, topography.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
so,
volume.
And there's different ways. Some people work off square meterage. Some people are very good at their numbers, and they have recorded every coffee cost on that project, right? Every spilt bit of milk, right? And they know exactly the costs associated with that style of construction, and they're the builders we like to work with, because they can offer costings advice. They're acting like a consultant, you see.
Yeah. I see.
So designers are really, for builders to work more with designers, be happy to offer probable.
Okay.
They're not finite, they're probable. I feel this project's heading in this direction. As we explore it more and demonstrate the costs, you'll be able to make an informed decision on what you'd like to spend your money on.
Yes.
And see how that dialogue just takes away all the stress around searching out the best outcome for the client, because we're not putting on an imaginary figure and dictating that figure should accomplish everything I want. Because who's worked out the figure? That figure could be established because the client sold an investment property, or the client feels that this is how much it should cost. Like, how did that figure get established?
Totally.
Yeah. So I think it's the designer and the architect's designer, builder's job to educate the client, and then we move on. We just keep, it's like snowballs. So the client's happy. They go, yeah, it's going to cost roughly this at this stage. We're heading in that direction. That's okay. I'm comfortable with that. Let's demonstrate more costs. And then they go shopping. They start looking at appliances and things of that nature. And then, there's always someone in the relationship that spends. Mm-hmm. And we laugh about that with our clients. Like one of the partners is going to spend some money. Yeah. And it's entertaining. and I think that's you got to have that freeness. If you don't have that freeness, your whole design process, and from the builder's point of view, if something doesn't start off good, it rarely finishes good. So if there's complications during the design process, there's going to be complications on site. Mm.
Mm-hmm. This approach that you have, was it like that from the beginning?
No.
Green Coast? What made you? What happened, or what was the moment where you're like, this needs to be done differently?
So we probably learnt a lot on our commercial experience there, and just how in the old days, don't you love that line? Previously, the architect was everything, right? Okay. The designer, the architect would come along and say, this is how it's going to be. The builder just built it, right? And what we discerned early days is that the industry is changing. We have so much responsibility on builders. The industry has forced them to really in a difficult position at times, to be perfectly honest. Mm. So I really feel for them, because the responsibility they have is incredible. And so we don't want to fight. Like we're not interested in having a hard process. So it's far better to collaborate and move forward. So it goes back to that simple attitude aspect. The way not to have an attitude problem is not to start one. Mm. So the builder is going to spend a year building the home. So what's wrong with them spending 6 months before that just understanding the design, working collaboratively together and getting that best outcome? That way you're a team. And I think what really drove that is the project is king. Okay. Because you want the home to be built.
Totally.
You see?
Totally.
And so from a designer's point of view, you're going, how can I get this house built? Mm. That's what's really key. Mm. So that's, in the past we'd go to tender. And sadly that just, we early on, we just said, no, we're not doing that.
Okay. Very good to hear. What if, for builders out there that, because I know one thing you mentioned to me off camera was encouraging builders, obviously loyalty is a very important thing. Mm. But if you're loyal to a designer that's not willing to change, and what would be some key things that you would encourage a builder to look for in terms of, if you're being loyal to this, it's having potentially a detrimental effect, or there's definitely greener pastures?
Yeah. I'd ask the question, how is your current systems helping you reach your life goals, your life business goals? What are you getting out of your current approach? And does that solve, enhance, or make your life more difficult? What's happening? So I'd encourage builders to take the time to spend a little bit more time interviewing the client and understanding who the consultant team will be and making sure it's the right fit for that client and that project. Yeah. So if a builder has a client, spend a little bit more time just seeking out a designer who actually has a track record of working with builders.
Okay.
Yeah. Working with them. Don't look at the design process as something you've got to quickly get done and do a tick and flick so that you can start your project. Because that's probably the attraction. If I can just push this through, I've got a contract and I can start and I can get my first invoice in.
Yep.
You see, that mindset, your next client's only as good as your last client. Mm. Okay, so if you've got that mindset, the buildings you work on will never benefit from the time of a collaborative, well thought out process. And ultimately what you're doing is picking up the pieces along the journey. Yeah. And again, I balance that with designers needing to take more responsibility to work with builders. Mm.
Yeah. Do you think that there are designers out there that are very open and would, because the reason I asked the question is because there is a narrative out there that is, or I get fed from our builders when I say, look, why don't you have you asked your designer architect, to get you involved earlier? Has it even been, or are you just doing what they tell you is the process, or as they reach out to, in their mind, it's no, I'm not going to reach out to architects to get me involved earlier because they're going to laugh at me and say, no, we'll give you the designs when it's ready to be priced,
Yeah.
But then there are those that I've spoken to who have pushed through. Maybe it does take you to call a few more to find the one that says, yes, please, you have a process that we can follow that gets you involved early to help.
Yeah.
100%, please.
It's changing.
Okay.
So I think there is a large percentage of builders who almost feel a little bit timid in reaching out to the designer. And I'd really encourage them not to be. But in saying that, they might be reaching out to the wrong designers. That's the other way to look at it. So align yourself with people who have similar values, a similar approach to the client, and a similar approach to the built outcome. Okay, so is your designer helping you run your business, and are you helping the designer run their business? So if you can combine those two, you're going to get a good result. Okay, so I'd encourage builders to reach out. There's some out there that are just very timid. They really downplay themselves too much. Like what builders take on, what they manage on site, the trade. A job site's like an adult childcare centre. You're right, and like they are managing trades who are chucking the toys out of the cot if they rock up at times.
Zero emotional regulation.
Yeah, zero emotional regulation, and you can tell a site by how clean it is. You can tell walking onto a site straight away. You know if it's organised.
What's the vibe,
right?
Yeah.
And so I think builders at times downplay how good they are and what they manage. If you tried to write what a builder does on a day-to-day basis, physically, and then turns around and does it at night with paperwork, it's incredible. And so I think take that skill set, take that confidence with you as you come into work with the designer and look at how that can complement that end of the business. In saying that, a lot of builders don't understand design. So it's the old adage, you might hear a builder say to an architect or a designer, you need to come and spend 4 years on the tools, right? Everyone's heard that. I've said in the past back to that person who said that, you need to come and spend 6 years at university. That the conversation quickly stopped, right? Because we realised we got different strengths, right? So what we've got to do is go, okay, that's okay to have a different strength. I'm not cut out for swinging a hammer all day. Now, I can, but I'm not good at it, right? Whereas a builder may not be cut out to sit for 10 hours in an office, right? And work through paperwork, but start with a blank sheet of paper. That's okay. You don't have to be. If you're going to come together, you'll get the roll-on effect. So I'd encourage builders to take a bit more time to develop relationships prior to contract.
Okay.
So the takeaway point there is don't wait to get a client to develop a relationship with a designer.
I love to hear because that is the first time hearing that from an architect and designer, and it's something that I've tried to help guys really push.
Yep.
It's like I built out a networking strategy for our guys to implement. Some of them are taking the time to action on it.
Yeah.
And in there, I write in bold, what's the intent? To build a relationship.
That's it.
What can I give? Not what can I get. The get will come. Firstly, build a relationship.
Yeah.
So that's really good to hear.
Yeah. So the fact that you're there in the office, you're introducing yourself, we're getting to know each other, invite the designer out to have a look at something you've built. And don't be afraid if it could be improved.
What do you look for then?
What I look for...
If a builder reaches out to you and says, I would like to build a relationship with you, I'd like to invite you out for a visit out to a project.
Yeah.
What are you looking for?
I'm looking... So we've had a few really good builders come into the office in the last few weeks just to introduce themselves. What I'm looking for is words or mannerisms, body language that gives me confidence, they're willing to collaborate. So they're happy to work together. So they'll start to ask questions. How can I help you price the project and be involved in the process rather than make statements? So statements are, I do this, this, and this. That's really good. That's valuable. I could say the same thing. We do this and this. That's not what it's about. It's how can we develop a relationship that will allow us to work together to get the best outcome for both business models, which then in turn gives the best outcome for the client. So how can we do that on this particular project? Or what approach could we take if you get the client, Aaron, or they're one of your clients, what's your next step? Or if I bring a client to you, Aaron, how can I have confidence that you're going to support me to retain that client? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's asking questions. How do we build? And you mentioned loyalty before. We're very loyal. And it frustrates me when our designs get taken elsewhere or things like that. Clients, sometimes do it. Builders sometimes do it. Not in recent time, which is really good. But I think developing those relationships and ongoing relationships are gold. But that's how I do it. Ask questions, self-educate, self-learn. How could we improve? How would you approach this situation? I've got this client. I've already got the drawings that they're drawn, but the client's not happy with it. Is there anything we could do? Like, how would we approach it together?
Yeah.
So, do that.
Wow. When you think about the future of, let's say, Southeast Queensland, what excites you most?
Good question. Wow, I wasn't expecting that one, mate. What excites me about... I can tell you what doesn't excite me. I think we've got opportunity. We live in an incredible part of the world. I heard it referred to as the Goldilocks zone.
Ah.
So you go to Margaret River and our big friendly whites, and you guys are familiar with those over in SA. Cameras on the beach to check for sharks every minute. I just think it was just an expression that was used, the Goldilocks zone. We live in a very beautiful part of the world. Yeah. It's growing. It's exciting because we're getting infrastructure projects. Funnily, the Olympics, right? Everyone knows they're coming. We were in England and working on the Olympic Village.
Whoa.
Just before the GFC, and it all crashed. That whole development didn't go ahead for the Olympic Village. So it was earmarked, ready to go. So a little...
What year was the London Olympics?
Oh, so I think we left in 2007. So when was the Olympics? Must have been 2007 or 2008, was it? The London Olympics? Was it 2008? Yeah, 2008. Okay. Yeah. So Stratford, it was essentially Olympic, like the one in Sydney. So they're going to build the village, right? Yep. But that whole project got canned because of the GFC. Okay. So what excites me is that we've got opportunity for growth, and we're starting to spread out. What concerns me is the lack of how town planning is keeping up with a changing demographic socially. Multi-generational housing excites me.
Okay.
How we can get two families in a home comfortably, how we design spaces that both of those families, and when I say two families, what I'm saying there is you might have mum and dad, grandma and granddad and two kids, right? So multi-generational. How do we design a space that gives everyone dignity? As grandma and granddad age, how do they have a sense of space that allows them to approach their own portion of the home and still feel valued? Yes. Yeah. How do we create that family network or that environment that people can thrive in? Yeah. So that excites me, but I don't think we're keeping up with how lives are changing. And we talk about the housing crisis all the time, right? But we really need to see town planning and legislation kind of leap forward a little bit and change the bulk and scale of what we can do with current homes. Yeah. So that excites me, what we can do there. But we need to balance it. Okay. We need to balance it. Sometimes the housing shortage can also be used as a really good sales tactic. Yeah, because it means you got to jump in. And again, that rushes the process. We don't take time. Have you ever seen the one that Rosso did on, I've lost the words now, Man About the House, but I've just lost it. I've had a mind blank. But he does a beautiful ABC documentary on housing.
Oh yeah,
Over
on
the
housing in
years.
Australia.
Yeah. And housing in Australia, and in essence, going from your modernist home through to your brick butter box.
Okay.
So what concerns me is that the housing crisis narrative is going to see us develop housing estates that just become almost prisons. Just roof after roof after roof, no sense of space or place, doesn't open up to the north.
Because you think the driving point is
numbers.
We just need it on the ground.
Yeah, it's
at a
politically
price that people can afford.
Absolutely, yep. Numbers. Let's just rock them out. So the first thing that happens there is design goes out the window. Okay. The next major threat is how that relates socially to a changing demographic. Okay.
Just to pause that for a second. When you say design is out the window, is the assumption that you can't have design at an affordable price? That you think,
No, not at all. What I'm saying is that speed can sometimes see us want to.
we don't have time to think about design.
We don't have time to
Let's
think
get
about
4 walls
it.
and a roof.
So if we've got 4 bedrooms, a double garage, and we're on a minimal site footprint, I can put 50 houses in this estate. I can house 1,000 families. I can build a Woolworths over here. We're done. But those homes have got to be lived in. How long do they last? What's the energy consumption of those homes?
Healthy?
Are they healthy? All of those aspects relate. It just takes a little bit of time to design it right. If we can just pause and think about those big picture outcomes, we'll introduce parks, we'll have street surveillance. We won't have people arrive at a garage door, celebrate the motor vehicle and never open their entry door because they just never use it. They just go in through the garage the whole time.
Yeah.
So it's just trying to balance that. Like if you look at these big subdivisions, you see the same roof line all the way down the street. And that can create a thinking in people's mind subconsciously that you're just in the rat race.
Oh,
yeah.
That scares me. When I see those photos that highlight that, I feel like the walls are closing in around me. Just
Absolutely.
At the thought of it.
Yeah, so those homes aren't designed for a multi-generational approach. Recently, we've seen people with disability considered more. So how can we age in place? How can the NDIS, all those aspects help? But it's that takes time. We've got to design those spaces. So yeah, excited that we live in just an incredible part of the world. Like it's an absolutely beautiful day today. The Gold Coast, the beach.
We should be on Stratty doing this.
Yeah, we should be on Stratty. Okay, we should be having a cold beer on Stratty. But you, how lucky are we?
Yeah.
Like to rock up each day and live here is a good day. So it's having a positive attitude, forget the negative. And Amanda and I have had that rhetoric lately of just, if it's toxic, just bin it. Just get that thought out of your mind.
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes you self-fuel. You believe your own advertising.
What do you, to do that, what are you consuming? What are you reading? What helps you maintain a strong, disciplined, healthy outlook?
Healthy outlook routine.
And be able to identify toxic thoughts and bin it.
Yeah, so you've got to have your own routine. Okay, so routine that's based on your physical health, your personal beliefs, your mental health, and then the difference between knowing versus doing. So many years ago when I was a lot fitter, I used to head over to CrossFit Brisbane, and Matt, the head coach there, used to have that phrase, knowing versus doing. And a lot of people have a lot of knowledge, yeah, but they don't do. They're not putting it into practice. And so you get these people have these wonderful statements, and they're fantastic, but the doing is the hard part. And so I think routine is a big one. Hard work. I think, get up, turn, face the sun. If things go wrong, they go wrong for everyone. But that routine and self-fueling through positive. So get off social media. I find it funny when you see
use it for business.
Business only.
Brilliant for that.
I follow places, not people. So that I think, like you look at the architecture aspects. Social media is such an powerful tool for good, but it is a two-edged sword. And it can confuse. And those algorithms are basically, to my understanding, they're designed to see how long you pause on something. That's it. So it's how long you take to watch it. And then it funnels more of that because you've obviously picked that up.
Yeah.
And obviously that's a discussion for people who are educated. In that. And I'm not educated in that. But that's what I've heard. So I guess to answer your question directly, if it's not positive and realistic, you shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be going
Don't
in.
consume it. Yeah, don't consume it. Like, focus on finding a good health balance.
Yeah.
What you can do as you get older, and then stick to it. And eventually, it comes. We just live in a what do they call it? Like when we went to school, you'd do your test, right? You do your maths test, your physics test, whatever, and you'd have to wait for the results to come back, right? You didn't get that instant gratification. Now, if you're doing it online, it's yes or no immediately. You know straight away you're right or you're wrong, or you've got to redo it. And I think we've become we've become in tune to that. We want a result immediately rather than just taking a bit of time for consistency. So
that's definitely true. I know across all industries,
things
are getting more and more geared towards the faster I can get the reward to the client, the consumer, the whoever, the faster they're going to come back and return.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah. And you got to believe in things. Like, you've got to have a belief. If you don't have a belief in yourself, you'll fall for anything. So,
what's something that we're trying to work hard on when it comes to changing that narrative? The mass media can sometimes put out something pretty negative. The next generation, those that are year 10, 11, 12, starting uni, that deciding on where to go and what to do in the world. What do you foresee for them?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, I didn't pose that one to you. I didn't in the question.
I'll relate it to my own kids, I guess.
Your kids are slowly approaching that.
Yeah, slowly approaching that, thankfully. Work ethic is lost. And again, I'm not being negative, but respect. So how do I say that? Man, you got me there. So what do I see? I see people apply for, coming to our firm to want to have a job. And I think what's missing often is hard work.
Okay.
Just being taught hard work. So what the next generation needs, be prepared to work hard. It's okay to work hard.
Okay.
Be good at hard work. It's not a bad thing.
Well, I was going to ask you there, with that in mind, what do you foresee them to have to look forward to, and where's the opportunity lying for them?
The opportunity lying for them is definitely related to software.
Okay.
And how it is leapfrogging forward.
Okay.
But you need to develop those personal skill sets. I remember an old architect I worked with, he said, in his opinion, he would describe someone who was a poor designer as having a bad pen. That was his way of saying they weren't very good at what they did. They've got a bad pen. It was very, very, very proper. And anyway, to cut a long story short, you need to develop those personal skills. Be a good human, develop those personal skills. So in our design industry, really focus on how you listen. How you listen, you don't have to say something. If you don't say anything, that doesn't mean you agree with someone. But just listen and look for ways to work hard in your personal self-discipline. So if you're coming into the industry, how can I educate myself on a healthy home, for example? Educate yourself on how software can assist your business. It's a tool to assist you with the skills. So identify your skill set and then where you could improve, and then see what you can learn from there. But I think, does that answer your question, mate? I was trying to think of it.
It's always insightful to hear someone's interpretation. It's left open on purpose.
I think a lot of people are worried in some way. I just saw an article on a 3D printed home. So I guess some people are worried about where they're going to fit in physically to the built environment in this construction methodology. And I guess that's a concern. It's a concern for everyone. I could liken that from hand drawing through to computer-aided drafting. Mm-hmm. Some people never thought CAD was going to go ahead. Well, look at it now, right? So you do get those big industry jumps, and I think it's just trying to stay focused on your core values of who you are, self-educate, and then follow your journey. Yeah, I think for the next generation, that's what they're going to have to do, because we had to, like in our day, if the job wasn't done, we weren't going home. We were working, and I can remember 1 a.m. mornings, and a lot of those who have gone through university who are either pulling beers to earn a living and then working free at an architectural practice to try and get experience.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure if that's still there these days, if people are prepared to do that. But for the next generation, look for opportunities. That'd be my advice. Look for opportunities to work hard, because the results will come.
I like that. Aaron, thank you very much for spending
problem.
time with me today.
Thank you for having me. Been a pleasure.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thank you.